Hello, and welcome back to ZMTV. It's great to have you here. Now, we've all heard stories about places with strict rules, right? Your parents' house, maybe that one teacher in high school who hated fun. But today, we're going to a whole new level. We're talking about North Korea, a country that has basically turned because I said so into a national policy. It's a place where the rule book isn't just thick, it's written in a language that seems to defy all logic and common sense. You see, North Korea isn't just known for its military parades and mysterious leaders. It's famous for having some of the most restrictive, most controlling, and frankly, most bizarre laws on the entire planet. We're not just talking about don't chew gum in class kind of rules. We're talking about laws that govern what you think, what you wear, who you talk to, and even what haircut you're allowed to have. It's like living inside a video game where the developer forgot to program the fun and freedom DLCs, and just left the settings on impossible mode. Some of these laws are so strange, so out there, that when you first hear them, you'll think I'm making them up. You'll be like, no, adventure, come on, that can't be real. But I promise you, every single one is a documented reality for the people living there. So buckle up, because we are about to take a deep dive into the world's most secretive regime, and trust me, it's gonna be a wild, eye-opening, and slightly terrifying ride. Let's get into it. Alright, let's start at the very beginning. Literally, at birth. In most of the world, a baby is born and everyone's like, "Aw, so cute." You get a name, a blanket, maybe a slightly embarrassing onesie from an aunt. In North Korea, you might also get a label traitor. Yes, you heard me right. You can be declared a traitor before you can even say goo goo gaga. This is thanks to a system called songbun, which is basically a social credit score from hell. It classifies every citizen based on their family's loyalty to the regime, going back generations. So, if your great-grandfather happened to own land, or was a Christian, or maybe just looked at a government official the wrong way back in the 1950s, congratulations! Your entire family line is considered hostile. This isn't just a label on a piece of paper, it dictates your entire life. It determines where you can live, what job you can get, whether you can go to university, and even the quality of food you receive. You're born with a ceiling over your head that you can never break through, all because of something someone you never met did decades ago. Talk about holding a grudge. Now let's talk about politics. Or, the North Korean version of it. You know how in most democracies, election season is this chaotic, messy, but ultimately important process. You have debates, different candidates, yard signs, people arguing on Facebook. It's a whole thing. Well, North Korea looked at all that and said, yeah, no thanks. That seems like way too much work. So, they have elections, technically. But it's like going to an ice cream shop that only has one flavor, vanilla. And the vanilla is mandatory. And the shop owner is watching you to make sure you eat it with a smile. On the ballot, there is only one candidate for each position, pre-approved by the ruling party. There's no opposition. There's no choice. Voting is compulsory for everyone over 17, and it's seen as a census to check who is still in the country, and more importantly, who is loyal. The ballot has one name. You take it, you walk to a ballot box in full view of officials, and you drop it in. There's technically a booth where you can cross the name out, but doing so is considered an act of treason, so it's less of an election and more of a national loyalty pledge with a 100% turnout rate. It's the political equivalent of a magician asking you to pick a card, any card when he's only holding one ace. Imagine this, you get home after a long day, you flop onto the couch, grab the remote, and you want to watch something. What are you in the mood for? A comedy, a drama, a nature documentary? Well, in North Korea, your only option is propaganda, or more propaganda. Or, if you're lucky, a documentary about the glorious production of cabbage, which is also propaganda. There is no channel surfing. There is only one state-controlled television broadcast, and every TV set sold in the country is fixed to receive only that channel. You literally cannot change the channel. The dials are soldered in place. It's a closed loop of information designed to constantly reinforce the government's message. The daily programming consists of news praising the supreme leader, documentaries about the nation's military might, and revolutionary operas. There's no escape. It's like being stuck in a waiting room for your entire life, where the only thing on TV is a corporate video for a company you're forced to work for. The concept of media freedom is so alien, it might as well be from another planet. You don't have a choice in what you watch. because the state has already decided what you need to see. George Orwell's 1984 was supposed to be a warning, a dystopian fiction. But, in North Korea, it seems like they read it and just used it as an instruction manual. One of the most terrifying concepts from the book is the idea of thought crime, being punished for having thoughts that go against the ruling party. Well, in North Korea, this is a grim reality. It's not just about what you do or say, it's about what you think. The state aims to control not just your actions, but your very consciousness. Of course, they don't have a machine that can read your mind, yet. But they have the next best thing, a society built on constant surveillance and mutual suspicion. Neighbors are encouraged to spy on neighbors, children on parents, colleagues on colleagues. Saying something that could be interpreted as disrespectful to the Kim family, even in the privacy of your own home, can get you reported. If you're caught, you could be sent to a political prison camp or a re-education camp for years. It creates an atmosphere of deep-seated fear where people learn to police their own thoughts, to never question, to never doubt, because the wrong thought, if it accidentally slips out, could cost you everything. Let's, lighten the mood a little. Or, well, try to. Let's talk about fashion. Fashion is a form of self-expression, right? What you wear can say a lot about who you are. Unless you live in North Korea, where what you wear basically says, I am a loyal and compliant citizen who does not have any decadent Western ideas. The regime has very specific ideas about what is and isn't acceptable attire, and some of the rules are just baffling. For instance, sunglasses. Yes, sunglasses are generally banned for the average citizen. Why? Because they obscure your face, and they're seen as a symbol of shady, individualistic Western cool. Only the dear leader can look that cool. And it gets weirder. For a time, wedding dresses, the traditional white gowns, were also banned. A bride was expected to wear a traditional Korean hanbok instead. The government saw the white dress as another undesirable Western influence creeping into their pure, socialist culture. It's a level of micromanagement that's honestly hard to comprehend. They're not just controlling your politics and your media, they're controlling your wedding photos and your ability to protect your eyes from the sun. It's all part of a larger effort to erase individuality and enforce a single, state-approved identity on everyone. Have you ever been in a public square or on a train platform and there's music playing? Maybe some pop song, maybe some classical music. In North Korea, the public soundtrack is a little different. In public spaces, on trains, and in workplaces, loudspeakers don't play music for your enjoyment. They broadcast the speeches of the Kim family, Kim Il-sung, Kim Jong-il, and Kim Jong-un. Hour after hour, the voices of the leaders echo through the streets, a constant reminder of who is in charge. And when these speeches are playing, you are expected to be silent and listen respectfully. You can't just put on your headphones and ignore it. This isn't background noise, it's a mandatory lesson in ideology that follows you wherever you go. The silence is enforced. It's a way of ensuring that the leader's words are the only ones that matter, that their philosophy sinks into the public consciousness through sheer, inescapable repetition. It turns the entire country into a captive audience for a never-ending one-man show. Imagine trying to have a conversation while a political rally is being blasted from every lamppost. It's a sonic occupation of public and private life. So, we've talked about how North Koreans can only watch state TV, but what happens if they try to watch something else? What if they get their hands on, say, a South Korean drama or a Hollywood blockbuster? Well, that's not just breaking a rule, it's committing a serious crime. The regime sees foreign media as a virus, a capitalist poison that could corrupt the minds of its citizens and show them that life outside their borders is, well, different. And different is dangerous. The punishments for being caught with foreign content are incredibly severe. We're talking years in a labor camp, and if you're caught distributing it, selling USB drives with movies or TV shows, you could face the death penalty. There are stories of public executions for people who have smuggled in copies of shows like Squid Game. Think about that for a second. Something that's a global pop culture phenomenon for us is a life or death risk for them. It really shows just how terrified the regime is of its people seeing the outside world. They know that a single episode of a romantic comedy from Seoul could be more powerful than 1,000 hours of their own propaganda. For most of us, the internet is like electricity or running water. It's just there. We use it for everything: work, school, connecting with friends, arguing with strangers about pineapple on pizza. In North Korea, the World Wide Web doesn't exist. For the vast majority of the population, there is no access to Google, no YouTube, no social media. What they have instead is a closed national intranet called Kwangmyong, which means bright star. But honestly, it's less of a star and more of a dimly lit closet. This intranet is a walled garden, completely sealed off from the rest of the world. It consists of a few dozen to a few thousand websites, all approved and run by the government. You can access a state-run email service, a state-run search engine that only finds state-approved content, and read the state-run newspaper online. Every single click, every search, every message is monitored. It's an internet designed not to connect you to the world, but to isolate you from it even more effectively, creating a digital bubble that reinforces the physical one they already live in. It's like being given a library where all the books were written by the same person. Got family or friends living abroad? For most of us, picking up the phone and calling them is simple. It might be expensive depending on the country, but it's not illegal. In North Korea, contacting the outside world is a privilege reserved for a select few, and for everyone else, it's a crime. Making an unauthorized international phone call can land you in serious trouble. The government wants to be the sole gatekeeper of all information flowing in and out of the country, and that includes personal conversations. To make a legal call abroad, you need to get official permission, which is almost impossible for an ordinary citizen to obtain. This has led to a black market for smuggled Chinese cell phones that can pick up signals near the border. People will risk their lives, hiking into the mountains at night, just to make a secret phone call to a relative who has escaped, to ask for money, or just to hear their voice. If they're caught by patrols, they can be arrested and accused of espionage. It's a heartbreaking reality. A simple act of reaching out to a loved one is treated as an act of treason. So, we know you can't watch foreign TV, you can't surf the real internet, and you can't call anyone outside. So where do you get your news? The answer is simple. You get it from the state. And only from the state. All media in North Korea, every single television station, every radio broadcast, every newspaper, every magazine, is owned and operated by the government. There is no such thing as an independent press. There are no journalists digging for the truth. There are only propagandists whose job is to relay the official party line. The main newspaper is the Rodong Sinmun, the workers' newspaper. Its front page, every single day, is dedicated to the activities of the supreme leader. The news isn't about informing the public. It's about glorifying the regime and demonizing its enemies, particularly the United States and South Korea. Information is a weapon, and the government holds a complete monopoly on it. They create the reality that their citizens live in, a reality where their leader is a godlike genius, their country is a socialist paradise, and the outside world is a decaying, hostile wasteland. It's the ultimate echo chamber. Alright, this is one of the most famous and frankly most ridiculous examples of North Korean control. Let's talk about hair. Yes, your hair. In North Korea, you can't just walk into a salon and say, "Give me something new and exciting." Your hairstyle is not a personal choice. It's a matter of state policy. There are a number of government-approved haircuts that are deemed acceptable, and anything else is considered a sign of bourgeois, capitalist decadence. For women, there are about 18 approved styles, often depending on their marital status. For men, the list is even shorter, around 10 styles, and they are all variations of short back and sides. Longer hair for men is strictly forbidden, as it's associated with lazy, unkempt hippies. And your haircut should of course be inspired by the glorious hairstyles of the nation's leaders. Though funnily enough, the one haircut you are not allowed to have is Kim Jong-un's signature look. That style is reserved for him alone. It's the ultimate power move. You must look like me, but not too much like me. Along with bad haircuts, the North Korean state is also waging a war against another symbol of the West, blue jeans. That's right, the most common, most versatile piece of clothing in the world is illegal in the Hermit Kingdom. Jeans are seen as the ultimate symbol of American imperialism. They represent a culture of freedom, rebellion, and casual individuality, all things the regime actively works to suppress. So, no Levi's, no Wranglers, no designer denim. It's all contraband. This ban extends to other forms of Western fashion as well. Things like skinny jeans, clothing with English words on them, and for women, short skirts and certain types of piercings are all forbidden. There are often fashion police or youth patrols on the streets who will stop and publicly shame or even punish people for improper attire. It's another way the state inserts itself into the most personal aspects of life, ensuring that conformity is maintained right down to the fabric you wear. Your wardrobe isn't yours, it belongs to the revolution. You'd think that in a country that has faced severe food shortages, they'd be happy with any food they can get. But even the dinner plate is not safe from government ideology. Certain foreign foods have been banned at various times because they are seen as carrying the taint of outside cultures. For example, there have been reports of crackdowns on foods like hot dogs and tteokbokki, a popular spicy rice cake dish from South Korea. The names themselves are seen as too foreign or too closely associated with enemy nations. The government even tries to rebrand things. Instead of hot dog, they might suggest a name like wheat tube with meat, delicious. Instead of coffee, a term with foreign origins, they might promote sweet tea. It's a bizarre form of culinary nationalism. The goal is to purify the culture from foreign influences, even at the most basic level of what people eat. It's not just about controlling what goes into your mind. It's about controlling what goes into your mouth, ensuring that every aspect of life, no matter how small, conforms to the state's vision of a pure, isolated Korean-style socialism. In most countries, if you want to visit another city, you just get in a car or on a train or a bus and you go. You might need to buy a ticket, but you don't need to ask for permission. In North Korea, freedom of movement is a fantasy. The country is crisscrossed with invisible walls. To travel from one city or even one province to another, you need a travel permit. And these permits are not easy to get. You need a very good state-sanctioned reason to travel, like a work assignment or visiting a sick relative. This system keeps the population locked in place. It prevents people from different regions from mixing and sharing information. It makes it easier for the government to control resources and keep track of every single citizen. It also keeps the rural population from flooding into the capital, Pyongyang, which is reserved for the most loyal and elite citizens. The country is effectively a collection of open-air prisons where moving from one section to another requires a hall pass from the warden. The idea of a spontaneous road trip is not just impractical, it's illegal. So if you can't even travel to the next town, you can probably guess what it's like trying to travel abroad. For the average North Korean, leaving the country is an impossible dream. Passports are not something you can just apply for. They are one of the rarest documents in the country, granted only to a tiny, privileged elite. This group includes high-ranking government officials, diplomats, and some athletes or artists who are sent abroad as cultural ambassadors, under heavy surveillance of course. For everyone else, the border is a hard line you cannot cross. Attempting to leave the country without permission is considered an act of defection, the ultimate betrayal. If you're caught trying to cross the border, the punishment is severe, a long sentence in a political prison camp, or even execution. The government's logic is simple. If people see what the outside world is really like, they will never want to come back. So they've turned the entire nation into a fortress, not just to keep enemies out, but to keep their own people in. The idea of owning your own home is a cornerstone of the dream in many parts of the world. It's a symbol of stability and personal achievement. But in North Korea, that dream doesn't exist because the concept of private property for the most part just doesn't exist. According to the state's socialist principles, all property, all land, all buildings, all factories belongs to the state. People are assigned housing by the government based on their social status and job. You don't own your apartment, you're merely allowed to live in it at the government's pleasure. This lack of ownership is a powerful tool of control. If the state owns everything, you are completely dependent on the state for your survival. You can't build wealth. You can't sell your home and move. If you fall out of favor with the regime, they can take away your housing, your job, everything, in an instant. While a black market for housing has emerged in recent years, officially, you own nothing. Your life is a rental, and the landlord is the supreme leader who can evict you at any time for any reason. Freedom of religion is a fundamental human right recognized around the world. The North Korean constitution technically guarantees it, but, like their elections, it's a complete sham. In reality, practicing any genuine religion is strictly forbidden and brutally suppressed. The only religion allowed is the personality cult surrounding the Kim family. The leaders are portrayed as divine, all-powerful beings, and the state ideology, Juche, is the only acceptable belief system. Citizens are expected to worship the Kims, not God. To keep up appearances for the outside world, the government maintains a few state-run, show churches in Pyongyang. Foreign visitors can be taken to see these churches where carefully selected actors go through the motions of a service. But it's all a performance. Anyone caught practicing religion in secret worshipping, praying, or even just owning a Bible, is considered an enemy of the state. They face arrest, torture, imprisonment in labor camps, and even execution. The state demands total, undivided loyalty, and it will not tolerate any competition, especially not from a higher power. We've touched on how your family's history can brand you a traitor from birth, but let's talk about the other side of that coin. What happens if someone in your family commits a crime today? In North Korea, they practice a system of 3-generation punishment. It's one of the most terrifying and inhumane forms of control imaginable. It means that if you are deemed a traitor or a political criminal, it's not just you who gets punished. It's your entire family. Your parents, your children, and your grandchildren are all considered guilty by association. They will be rounded up and sent to a political prison camp along with you. They could spend their entire lives in brutal conditions, doing hard labor, for a crime they had nothing to do with. The goal is to create the ultimate deterrent. It forces people to think not just about the consequences for themselves, but for their entire bloodline. It ensures that even if you are willing to sacrifice your own life to defy the state, you would have to be willing to sacrifice your mother, your father, and your children too. It is a system of absolute terror. How does the government enforce all these insane rules? How do they know if you're watching a foreign movie or complaining about the regime in your own kitchen? Well, the answer is a pervasive, all-encompassing surveillance state. The government has eyes and ears everywhere. And, honestly, many of them belong to your friends, your colleagues, and your neighbors. The state security apparatus relies heavily on a network of informants. People are encouraged, and sometimes forced, to spy on one another and report any suspicious activity. This is managed through a system called Inminban, or neighborhood units. Each Inminban leader is responsible for about 20 to 40 families, and must keep detailed records on every person, monitoring their activities and their ideological loyalty. This creates an atmosphere of profound distrust. You can never be sure who you can speak freely with. The person you share a meal with could be the one who reports you to the authorities. It atomizes society, breaking down the bonds of community and trust, leaving everyone isolated and fearful. The first line of defense for the regime is turning its own citizens against each other. Imagine having a weekly meeting at work where you don't just discuss projects, but you have to stand up and confess your personal failings. And then, your colleagues have to stand up and criticize you. And then you have to criticize them. Sounds like an HR nightmare, right? Well, in North Korea, it's a mandatory part of life. These are called self-criticism sessions, or Sengwal Chongwa, and they are held in every workplace, school, and neighborhood unit. During these sessions, each person must confess their shortcomings from the past week. These could be anything from being late to work, to not working hard enough, to having impure thoughts that go against socialist principles. The confessions have to be sincere. After you confess, others in the group are required to pile on with their own criticisms of you. It's a form of psychological conditioning, designed to enforce conformity, root out individuality, and remind everyone that they are constantly being judged by the collective and the state. It's a ritual of public humiliation that keeps everyone in a state of perpetual guilt and anxiety. We talked about the fake elections, but it's worth circling back to just how mandatory they are. It's not just that you're expected to vote. Failing to show up is a serious red flag for the authorities. The 100% turnout rate isn't just a point of pride for the regime. It's a critical tool for social control. The election serves as a national census, a way to check who is where they're supposed to be. If you don't show up to vote, a security official will come to your house to find out why. Are you sick? Have you moved without permission? Have you defected? So, everyone votes. But the act of voting itself is a loyalty test. As we mentioned, you get a ballot with one name. You can drop it directly into the main ballot box, which signifies a yes vote. Or, you can go to a separate, conspicuous booth to cross the name out, which is a no vote. But no one ever uses the no booth. Ever. Doing so would be political suicide. You would be immediately identified as a dissident. So, the election is a piece of political theater where the entire nation is forced to stand up and shout, yes, in unison. So, in school, we all had to memorize things, like multiplication tables, dates from history, maybe even a poem or two. But in North Korea, a huge part of your education, and honestly your entire life, is dedicated to memorizing ideological principles. And this isn't just for students. It's for everyone. Citizens are required to memorize these lengthy passages from the works of Kim Il-sung, Kim Jong-il, and Kim Jong-un. They also have to know the 10 principles for the establishment of a monolithic ideological system, which is basically the ultimate set of rules for being a loyal citizen. These principles have to be known by heart, and people can actually be tested on them at any time by officials, at their workplace, or even in their neighborhood unit. Forgetting a line, or failing to recite a principle correctly, can have some pretty serious consequences, marking you as ideologically suspect. It's really a system of indoctrination through rote learning. The goal is to fill people's minds so completely with the state's ideology that there's just no room left for any other ideas. Your brain isn't really your own. It's more like a storage device for party doctrine. In a country where very few people can own a car, the bicycle is a primary mode of transportation for many. It's a simple, efficient way to get around. But this is North Korea, and nothing is simple. Even owning a bicycle is wrapped up in bureaucracy. You can't just buy a bike and ride it. Your bicycle must be registered with the state, and you are issued a license plate for it, just like a car. This system allows the government to track and control even this most basic form of transport. If a bicycle is used in a crime, or used by someone trying to escape, it can be traced. It's another layer of control, another way the state asserts its authority over every aspect of daily life. It's a perfect example of how the regime is obsessed with monitoring and regulating everything. Nothing, not even a simple bike ride, is free from the watchful eye and paperwork of the state. It's a system where even the smallest freedoms are managed and licensed. We know the regime hates Western fashion like blue jeans, but their suspicion of foreign influence goes even deeper, down to the very words and symbols on your clothes. Any clothing with foreign logos or prominent slogans, especially in English, is banned. You won't see people walking around Pyongyang wearing a Nike swoosh, an Adidas logo, or a t-shirt that says "I love New York." Such displays are considered a form of ideological pollution. This is part of the Juche ideology of self-reliance, which extends to culture as well as economics. The state wants to promote its own brands, its own designs, and its own language. Foreign branding represents a connection to the outside world, a world the government wants to pretend either doesn't exist or is an enemy. So, the fashion police are not just looking for the cut of your jeans, they are scanning your t-shirts for any trace of English or a capitalist logo. It's a fight for control over the symbolic landscape of the country, ensuring that the only logos people see are the ones that glorify the state. So, after hearing all this, you might be thinking, who would ever want to visit this place? But people do. Tourism to North Korea is possible, but it is unlike any other travel experience on Earth. You don't just book a flight and a hotel and go exploring. You are entering a highly controlled, carefully curated bubble. All tourists must be part of an official tour group, and you are accompanied by 2 government minders or guides at all times. You cannot leave your hotel or wander off on your own. Ever. Your itinerary is pre-planned and unchangeable. You will only be shown what the government wants you to see. Impressive monuments, model farms, showcase schools, and the pristine capital of Pyongyang. You will have almost no interaction with ordinary North Koreans, and your guides will monitor your conversations and your photographs. Taking a photo of anything that looks poor, underdeveloped, or military is strictly forbidden. It's not tourism, it's a performance. You are an audience for a grand play designed to convince you that North Korea is a prosperous, happy, and powerful nation. You are constantly watched, constantly managed, and you will only see the mask, never the reality behind it. And there you have it, a glimpse inside the world's most secretive and controlling society. From the haircut on your head to the thoughts inside it, the North Korean regime seeks to dominate every facet of human existence. It's a reality that is almost impossible for many of us to truly comprehend, a stark and terrifying reminder of what can happen when a government has absolute, unchecked power. The lives of the North Korean people are a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, surviving in a system designed to crush it. Thinking about these laws and the people who live under them really puts our own freedoms into perspective, doesn't it? The simple choices we make every day. What to wear, what to watch, where to travel, what to say, are privileges that millions of people can only dream of. It's a heavy topic, I know, but it's crucial to understand what's happening in every corner of our world, even the most hidden ones. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive and for supporting ZMTV. Your curiosity and engagement make these videos possible. If you found this video informative or thought-provoking, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps the channel grow. Share it with someone who might be interested and let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Which of these laws did you find the most shocking? I read as many comments as I can, and I'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next adventure into the unknown. Until next time, stay curious and stay free.